Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out, a thanks and appreciation to Melby Styles, Troy Shuker, Bo Snail, Joseph Pizarro, Samson, Maris, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, NA Literalist, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, Kirsten Smith, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Also, link below this video is a link to get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. With that, I'm going to hand over to whoever is in Google and Discord so you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show.
Hello. Hi, guys.
You're over here already?
Yeah. No, I had an appointment today at 1 o'clock and I just got back and I didn't think it was like the early bird show of only less than half an hour would be worth it. So I just decided to get on here instead.
Right.
How about
So,
Rumpus
what do you got?
yesterday, huh?
That was special. I think the double speaking is getting to him.
He wasn't saying tangent line. He said tangent point.
Yes. So he's trying to discontort tangent points from tangent lines. So basically, he just starts at the tangent point, doesn't, draw in the natural logical consequences that it's only secondary to a tangent line, and then proceeds to help you imagine as to how a curve can hit that tangent point. And that's the trick. It's only there to distract away from that. Yeah, it's supposed to be a straight line. That's the only reason, really.
So, but in his mind, he likes these diagrams, and if he could draw it out, it's real.
Where's Nathan?
Here and just busy.
Oh.
Right, that means talk, guys.
Definitely
means
in delusional world.
Are we recorded yet?
No, you always
Who
assume you are
knows?
being recorded.
No, I thought
But,
Nathan would be doing the intro first and naming all the Patreons and everything.
That's
does
the
that.
live show. This is the pre-show.
That's
so
not the
back
live
to
show.
Rumpus. Okay.
That's not the live show. He always does that on the pre-show.
No, but when
Maybe
we
a long
come
time
on-
ago.
When we come on the pre-show, we never hear him do what
Yeah,
the
we don't hear that.
broadcast.
We're just talking.
Oh, okay.
So back to Rumpus. So he's in delusional world for many years now.
Probably since in school, the first time somebody told him the Earth was a globe.
I don't
Would
know.
you're just finding out he's in delusion?
No, but listen, if in anything, when so much evidence comes your way, how are you still holding on? I don't get it.
Because he has to.
If there was as much evidence coming forth that flat Earth was not true, I would be gone.
But once you double down too much on things that you shouldn't, eventually it becomes harder not to double down. And Rumpus has been there for a while.
His voice is getting shakier, though. A lot shakier than it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he destroyed the whole globe model when he said light doesn't come in parallel. It's over.
I remember that. It does not.
Here's a definition of a point. A point is the most fundamental object in geometry. It is represented by a dot and named by a capital letter. A point represents position only. It has zero size, that is, zero length, zero width, and zero height. And it shows a figure. It shows 3 points. Line, a line, straight line can be thought of as a connected set of infinitely many points. It extends infinitely far into two opposite directions. A line has infinite length and zero width and zero height. Any 2 points on the line, name it. The symbol written on the top of 2 letters is used to denote the line. Then it talks about collinear points and all the different things, or a plane, just goes into it.
I thought
No.
Hey lads, how are you?
Hey, Brian, how you doing?
I said a while ago, but you didn't hear me, I think.
No, I just heard you now for the first
Hey.
time.
As well.
I thought a point in a line was defined axiomatically by its properties in geometry, not by any definition.
Well, I'm just reading it from a math forum, and the way the ballers use it is from the center of the Earth. Don't forget, they take from the radius straight up and the radius sideways to get their 90 from the center. So they have to work within the parameters of a circle with a diameter, a radius, all the parts in the circle.
So how do they get their center tent?
Because the circle is 360 degrees. And you put a compass at a point on the
Right.
sharp end and make a circle. So from the point to the surface is the radius. All the way through is the diameter. And so all they did was say, use terms of geometry and say we're on the sphere with a radius. The molten iron core is their center. Okay, and so every
But they use
measurement,
their radius, right?
circle always has a radius.
No, but I'm saying they use their measurement of 3959.
Well, that's what they give as a size to the sphere based on supposedly what Aristophanes did with the Cyan and Alexandria measuring the shadow.
I don't see even the point. I don't even see the point talking about even. I understand the argument. I listened to yesterday's show and I understood Nathan holding Rumpus to task and taking him apart. But it's like, is the horizon geometric? No. But at that,
Yeah, it's over.
it's over. Do you know what I
I
mean?
know.
Now I
I know.
understood why Nathan did what he did and how he did what he did, but it's over. Like, because they can't put it there. They can put a line to an horizon, but it'll change in 10 minutes time. It'll be in a different place. So
Yeah. Well, their whole point, pun intended. Okay, sometimes it come out when I'm not even thinking about it, but I better jump on before someone takes it.
Get on with it.
Well, their whole point is to assume we live on a sphere. So if you're going to assume we live on a sphere, then you're constrained to work within the parameters of a sphere. So you got to have a radius, you got to have a line within there, the equator, which is the great circle that cuts through the radius at the biggest part. And then you got your great circles, you got your smaller circles. And so now they're stuck to this geometry, which brings us to the surface. From the surface of the sphere, you cannot do geometry and get angles. The only place you can do any kind of angles is from the center. So the sextant cannot work on an arced curved surface, but the sextant does work on Earth, thus proving we're not on an arced curved surface, because the sextant does work, gives us the angles to the sun, stars, moon, and etc. So what they do is say, oh, well, when that light comes in, it's coming in parallel, and so you can take it to the center of the Earth. Well, first of all, your eyes tell you light doesn't come in parallel, so that's a lie. So the model's dead right there. Plus, why would I take it to the center of a pre-assumed globe that no one's been to and start my measurements there? Because no one measures from the center. They measure from the surface. If you measure from the surface, to have an angle, you got to have two straight lines. All game over.
Right. Earth is not a sphere.
Yeah, because the sextant works.
Right.
It's simple. I mean, they have measurements with the sextant that are in the thousands and thousands of miles, 6,000 miles, 5,000 miles.
Yeah,
And
they're
I've
going to
been
say, yeah, the sextant works because we're on a sphere.
No, you're missing the point. If it's,
No, I know your point, but I'm telling you what they'll say.
I don't care what they say.
It-
People lie all the time. You
What?
cannot have 3,000 miles of straight, flat ocean and say you live on a curve.
That's always been my argument.
Well,
The
you
ocean
can
surface.
if it just looks flat, right?
No, the sextant can't work unless it is flat.
Yeah, that's what Temp
No.
is saying. Unless it's flat, it ain't working.
No, that's not
Why?
true. It can't work unless it looks flat.
Fine, have it your way. It's flat.
No,
called
but the
this-
sextant doesn't really. It's R
called-
compatible, unfortunately.
No, it isn't. It's circle of equal altitude kills their argument.
It destroys it.
Wow.
Everywhere on that circle is the same distance to the center of the zenith of that star. So if the zenith of that star to you on that circle is 4,000 miles, then anyone on that circle around that center is 4,000 miles away from it as well. So that means the guy directly across from you, across from that center, is 8,000 miles away from you, because he's 4 from the center, you're 4 from the center. So that's 8,000 miles of flat.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's over.
And they're on an oblate spheroid, because so that means that there's no way to even remotely have an equal, because it's an oblate spheroid. They can't have an equal, especially over that kind of a distance.
That's right. So the only way it works is if you go to the center and you, the observer, use the sextant from there, see through the Earth, catch the sunlight somehow, and get your angle. And then that circle of equal altitude is underneath the Earth rather than on top of the Earth, because you're shooting it from the radius, the center. But no one does that. That's impossible.
Impossible.
Very good. Round and round we go with the ballers.
I don't know. I think due to a lack of oversight, I disagree with you. I think it is possible on the ball.
It is possible on a piece of paper with a circle, but it's not possible for the sextant to work in reality that way.
I've never used a sextant, so I gotta
It's a protractor.
think what you're saying.
It's a protractor. If you put a protractor on a piece of paper,
Right.
in the middle, right, you can go and do the sunrise to sunset. It's every 15 degrees is an hour.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that's it.
It's on paper, though.
So
That's exactly
No.
how fast the ball Earth spins.
but you see, that's why the sun moves 15 degrees an hour, and you can use a sextant, and it's directly over you at the zenith. So 12 noon is in the middle of that protractor. That's your 12 noon, or your highest point of the day. And then if you going towards sunset, every 15 degrees is going to take you down to the 180 line.
Sounds like a clock to me.
What do you think the sky is?
Oh boy.
I still don't see how it can't work on a spinning ball Earth, but maybe that's just me.
Well, it can't work from the surface of it. You'd have to go to the center of it. And you'd have to have parallel light. And we don't have either of them are impossible because light doesn't come in parallel and no one goes to the center to use their sextant and come up 4,000 miles and get on their boat again. Sorry.
Yeah, but the problem is that the reason it doesn't work is that if you take an angle to something on the globe, problem is that you could take an angle, let's say, right, from your boat to something in the sky. But the problem is that where you're expecting that to be, right, you're saying, right, that the zenith of that is so many miles away. They say the zenith of that star is just over the coast of California, right? You can't say that on a globe because your angle, you have to take more than one angle to find that out. Because it's zenith to you wouldn't, let's say if it was over the coast of California, but its zenith to you would be over the coast of Florida on a globe, if you know what I mean. Because you take an angle to that, it's zenith straight down. It might be over the coast of California, but to you it's over the coast of Florida because they're on a globe. It's on a curved surface, so it doesn't work.
Well, let me just make it easier. You can't even get an angle without two straight lines. So it can't work on a curved surface. So there's no angle to. So if you're in the middle of the ocean, say between Japan and California, just say right smack dab in the middle, and you want to know where you are, and you sight the sun, and the sun at that moment in the nautical almanac, at the highest point, its zenith position is over California. Well, how many miles is that? Go to the book, figure it out. Let me just throw out a number. Let's say 8,000 miles or whatever. So now you're 8,000 miles away from there, and you draw a circle from where the sun is, and you're somewhere on that circle. All that has to be flat. Now sun comes directly over your head in the ocean. So now the highest point of the sun is directly over you, near where you were when you did the first sighting. So now you're directly under it. Now it goes towards Japan. And it's setting. Rightly so, setting sun, Japan. And it's 7,500 miles from there, let's say. Well, you got to draw a circle from the center over that sun's highest point is in Japan to you. And see the angle you have of it? It's setting to you, but it's high above Japan. You need two straight lines to get that vertex. If you don't have a vertex, you ain't got an angle. And if you ain't got an angle, you ain't got a corner. And you've got two straight lines, you can't get a corner. And it can work on the surface of a curved sphere. The sextant cannot work. But it does work, which means the Earth is flat.
Well,
I understand.
if we lived on a curved surface, you wouldn't create an astrolabe or a
Sextant.
sextant. The name keeps escaping me. You wouldn't create that. That wouldn't be a good tool. You wouldn't create it in the way it is. You wouldn't create it like that. It would have to have extra parts on it for you to find out anything. If we were on see, as well as that, we'd be on a rotating surface as well. So it would be different from the sky moving. Not only would you have a curved surface, but it'd be and an oblate spheroid surface. You'd be also have this. You'd be moving as opposed to the sky. So you'd have to design it different. It's like airplanes. If we didn't live on a flat Earth, airplanes wouldn't exist. You know what I mean? Same thing, isn't it?
Agreed.
I don't know. But that standard bird wouldn't exist either. Oh, wait, nothing would exist. No life would exist. We wouldn't be breathing, but...
Well, technically, you're correct, Darwin. If you lived on a spinning ball, nothing would exist.
Right. So how's that airplane gonna stay up in the air without any air pressure beneath its wings to keep it up when the air is expanded in all directions, leaving only a vacuum on the surface?
Let's say it's
And-
safe to say that it's impossible to be living on a spinning water ball.
Well, hold
Erwin,
on.
are you trying to get me to argue with you about what would be possible on a spinning ball in a vacuum? You can forget that one, buddy.
Good one, Brian. That's the way to keep them on the straight and narrow.
You gotta throw out a line sometimes, to catch some Globers.
Nice one,
Give them
Arwen.
a hint of maybe a potential possibility.
Arwen don't even know he had a pun.
I know. I just want him to make his points. I just want to make his points.
Oh,
Well, I can tell you why Rumpus is fighting so hard for the tangent, because the tangent would be a straight line and your zenith would be a straight line. That's why he wants to keep the tangent point. They need that, because that's the two straight lines you're talking about.
When you look on any diagram, and I've got 3 of them in Master B right now. One is angle of elevation. The other one is parts of a circle. And then the other one shows tangent coming from the outside of the sphere to the radius. Everything they do is done in straight lines.
Well, in geometry there is, because there's no curved geometry, but I think what Rumpus is trying to achieve is to basically have his geometric horizon being visible, but without applying the geometry, which is used as straight lines. So he's trying to have his geometric Earth
But
curve
a sphere is
without
geometry.
the consequences. He wants the geometric horizon without the consequences.
yeah,
But
but the
it's-
black
well,
swan killed the
But
geometry.
a sphere
Fucking
is
hell.
part of geometry, and the only way you get straight lines from it is from the radius to the surface.
If I had to argue with Rumpus about it, what I'd argue about is the diagram that was up there yesterday. You know the diagram Nathan shows, where it's like, let's say Alberoni is on the line at the top, like the zenith line. Like Alberoni is at the top of that line, and he's supposed to be taking an angle, dip angle down to the horizon, right? So you have one straight line up, and there's other straight line down. But the line between the two at the bottom is a curve. So you can't take an angle with one of the lines being curved.
That's right.
It can't
Exactly.
be done. You need 3 straight lines, so you can't take an angle on a curved surface.
Tip of the
Yeah.
spear,
I don't know anything
gentlemen.
about geometry. I never learned it. I left school really early. Well, I got fucked out of it, but sorry. But you can't do that. Go
Yeah,
on,
there's
sorry,
common
Don. you
sense.
said something?
The
Yeah.
one he's standing on is curved.
Yeah, you can't make triangles don't have any curved lines.
Let's say tip of the spear, gentlemen. My hat is off. Yeah, we are right there, aren't we? Exactly
Yep.
how it works,
Yep.
exactly how it don't work. And you can all summarise it. I noticed when you got to the punchline, 3 people jumping, going, exactly! Because we all got it. We've all got it so finely sharpened now. Just makes me so proud.
So-
Excellent.
Thanks for making that point, Nathan.
Boom, boom.
That's one of my best
Yeah.
lines.
I would call those puns an over-sharpened spear.
Very
After them,
punctual.
guys.
Hey, Adam.
Hey, Adam.
Yeah,
The Adam Meakin.
I
doing,
missed
bro?
my pun.
What did you say, Aaron?
I said it was very punctual of you.
Oh, nicely.
Oh.
Hopefully that you didn't try to bring in space time with that.
I can't think of something.
Give it a second, you will.
Oh, nice one, Brian.
2 more panels arrived. 3 more panels arrived yesterday. One was damaged to the point where I couldn't use it. And the other 2 were damaged to the point where I haggled them to be half price. Not that I wanted half-price damage panels, but that's what I've got. But there we go.
What happened? The box that it came in all messed up in shipping?
Yeah, I think that a batch of wood they had has just got mold on it, and like, it's moldy. They're like, I said it was damp, and they're like, it's not damp. You know, they're very well stored, etc. They took a greater version to that. You're like, okay, well, it's got damp, it's got mold on it. I sent them pictures, and they're like, okay, well, just check the batch of wood. We might want them back. And I said, look, all this being said, I've got another 4 more of these to buy. So if I could get them cheap, I probably would actually buy them. In other words, I have bought stuff that have had seconds on eBay, and I've said, look, can I have this a bit cheaper? You know, hassle-free. I'll just pay cash for them from your eBay store. And they're like, yeah, okay. And they've given me a good deal on one particular pair of panels. Anyway, I said, look, I know what will happen to these. They'll get sent back. You'll go, yeah, they're subpar, and then you'll stick them on eBay. But all that will happen is I'll end up buying them on eBay and then end up coming back here, which is what they understood and were like, okay, fine, you can have them at half price. But there we go. All I ended up doing was ordering 2 more. In other words, the next set I order are half price, but I've still got ones that are a bit subpar, which is not great, but I've saved a bit of money, which is also quite good, I suppose. Anyway, I just wanted to grumble.
I thought that when you started out, I thought you were talking about panel members. That would
No,
have been weird.
I'm just finishing it off. I've completely, it's all going on
Well, we're
credit. So
damaged too.
Especially not in the pre-show, Owen. When
Yeah.
he talks about panels in the pre-show,
exactly, I've
it's
only got about
about
2.5 minutes left before I can't talk about this. Yes, exactly, Neil. So I just wanted to get it off my chest. So exactly. Just wanted to moan, Owen. The thing is, it's one of those that
That's okay.
I'm penniless at the moment. I shouldn't be ordering this stuff, but in order to get cheaper delivery, I ended up bulking up an order that started with my wife just saying order 1 panel. So that turned into, well, I might as well order 3 panels if I'm going to be sticking it on credit to get the cheaper postage, right? Makes sense. Now that's turned into 5 panels, 2 of which came at a bit of a discount. It's like, it's all going on PayPal credit. I've got to watch what I'm doing, really. Hopefully next month will be a bit better.
PayPal credit? Really?
Yeah, PayPal
That
offer like
exists?
4 months interest-free credit. So when you, which is handy because with these panels, I was intending on buying them piecemeal, 1 at a time, but then the postage gets horrendous. Whereas if I can order maybe 3 at a time, you end up with, well, it's not quite at their at their limit for free postage, but I haggle like crazy and end up getting maybe half price postage, which does save quite a considerable amount when you're ordering loads of them. I've got about 50 of them, so you can imagine it all mounts up when it's like £12 to get it posted per box because they're big. So if you can wangle free postage, it saves a fortune. Anyway, I'm eating into the live time now to talk about panels. This is disgraceful. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, there is a link to get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. Now, we are joined by the Adam Meakin, Neil, Arwin, 10th Man, Father of a Stolen Child, Brian's Logic, and a whole bunch of people in Discord.
Greetings.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, good morning.
Morning.
Afternoon,
afternoon.
everyone.
Happy day.
Howdy doody. We all doing mighty fine? Pretty good? Tangent puns aside?
Yeah, we're all good. Taking on attention quite well here.
Excellent
What's your
stuff.
point?
Somebody said there should be like a lexicon or a glossary or something for the terms we use. So someone was like, look, you don't have to do this, but it's just one of those things that as a new viewer, I'm like, great, new subscriber, I will pay attention to you for sure. Not that I don't pay attention to regular subscribers. Anyway, it's like, what do you mean by Black Swan? What do you mean by Tin Chin? And I'm like, wow, you are a new subscriber. So what do we mean by Tin Chin? It's me pointing out in a sort of overt manner that Rumpus, in that particular instance, who's telling me, by way of projection, to take it on the chin, inferring that I've lost when I've won, he's got a dry mouth. He's in a state of mind where he's not panicking, but knows the fight is on. And his mouth's drying up. He's getting ready to run away. Fight or flight. Look it up. And that manifests in stuttering over your words and things of that nature. So when he said take it on the tin chin, it was just a very amusing tell. Anyway, that's what tin chin means.
You don't miss any of them.
Well, I'm in the same frame of mind. You know, it's not like I'm any different. It's hypocritical because obviously the fight is on. I'm in it. So you could easily turn around and say, well, you're in exactly the same state of mind. It's like, yeah, but I'm in that state of mind with a smile, knowing that I'm winning. You're in that state of mind stumbling over your words because you know you're losing. And that's pretty clear to the people watching. Anyway.
I'm just thinking of a few there now. I got Tin Chin, Globiolis, Coriolis virus, Muppet Vision. There are quite a things that probably do need a glossary.
Let's do it. Go through them again. Let's do them one at a time. Let's do it. Start the one you started with.
So we got Tin Chin. So take it on the Tin Chin.
Take it on the Tin Chin.
Globiolis, which is...
Well, let's start with Tin Chin. That's a projected fear from your opponent. Next.
Yeah. Globiolis.
That's the hijacking of the not actual deflection observed from a non-inertial turning reference frame in the inertial reference frame. That would be an apparent deflection in the inertial reference frame observed from the non-inertial turning reference frame. Just to say it twice so everyone's clear. Described as speed changes or inertial changes. It also mislabeled, I'll get there, Brian, I promise. Also mislabeled as the conservation of angular momentum. So a description that's incorrect, labelled as the conservation of angular momentum with an overriding heading of Coriolis effect. There you go, how's that?
I think that's pretty spot on. The next one, I'll share screen for you just to give you a bit of assistance, is Coriolis virus.
Coriolis virus is the requirement to challenge your opponent to prove the claim that Earth has Coriolis virus. So it is exampled by Simon Dan telling me that my reference frames are ruined. So what he's doing is inferring that the reference frames used to claim Earth is turning are debunked because we point out we don't have Coriolis effect observable on a turning Earth. It's not a turning Earth. And when we point that out, they then challenge us to prove their claim so they can debunk it. That's Coriolis virus.
Oh, Muppet Vision.
Muppet Vision. Let's just bring Anthony in before. Are you in, Anthony?
Yes.
Muppet Vision is very apt that you should arrive at this particular moment because it was labelled 3 years ago when we were detailing the hijacking of perspective. And that is done by way of the begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking curve calculator, by way of a now debunked physical geometric tangent point horizon that used to be called Earth curve. In order to do that, you need to turn the view that you see, like the one you have on screen, of things in the distance and a horizon, moving from left to right, as you can see on screen, into an orthographic representation, side on. So it's a third person view with you in the picture. So you see the side of your own head and you see the target. And then you have the only assertion as the cause of things disappearing in the distance being the physical geometric tangent point, now debunked by the Black Swan, formerly known as Earth curve, getting in the way of boats and buildings, by way of this tangent point claimed to be a blockage, geometric horizon, called Earth curve. Well, to do that, you need to remove perspective. The fact that things get smaller as they recede into the distance, angular size reduction, you need to remove that and call it Earth curve. So to do it, you put it into what we call Muppet vision. That's because you see the side of your own head, 90 degrees side on to the actual observation.
This one, I'm not sure if it warrants it, but I do think it's probably needed, but it's not necessarily a specific to, but horizon.
Horizon is the apparent location where the sky meets the land or sea.
Cool. 2 to go. I got Black Swan.
Black Swan is an argument made by Karl Popper that has been used in analogy. The Black Swan itself is an argument that if one was to assert that all swans were white, it would only take one black swan to disprove the argument. By analogy, we have Modus Tollens, which is formulated as follows. If the Earth is a sphere radius 3959, then every distance to horizon can be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. That's the geometric horizon. And in the Black Swan image, as it has been dubbed, we demonstrate that the horizon is way in excess of the geometric limitations of a sphere Earth, proving the Earth is not a sphere, debunking the tangent point claimed to be physical horizon.
Cool. Last one then, and as is it, Riley'ian gravity.
Riley'ian gravity is the assertion of relative density disequilibrium as a manifest force in either direction.
Perfect.
Which housekeeping question was that?
We're not. We're doing a little glossary. Somebody in the comments who was a new sub was like, they were so polite about it as well. At the end, they were like, look, you can just ignore all of this. It's perfectly fine. It's like not wanting to offend me. So for that very reason alone, I was like, just on pure politeness, I'm going to do this. And then Adam's obliged by coming up with some of our terminologies that we throw in.
Yeah. You know
Like
how
a
you were
lexicon.
talking about cross-pollination the other day, and I said there's some of that's to do with other topics of interest that are being pushed. And you were like, oh, that kind of makes sense. One of the kids, and I say kids in a respectful way, he's a protester. He's very much not in this topic. He's on the fringes. He's putting his toe in the water. He's having a little look. And because of the protesting angle that I'm interested in too, he came to me and he said, listen, can I ask you some questions? I said, yeah. And he wanted to know, like, some of the relative density questions that the topic that we're talking about, because he was genuinely interested. And he said, like, I don't want you to say my name. He said, because I don't want to commit to this properly yet. He said, but I get what you're saying. He said, but I was listening to someone saying that why is it always up and down and never sideways? And I said, it is sideways. And he said, what do you mean? He said, we only ever see things going up and down. And I said, no. I said, we do see things going sideways. We see smoke. I said, it initially rises, but once it finds its point where it's no longer like in disequilibrium, it'll start to level out. I said, but we also see other things that we can demonstrate that show that there is lateral movement sideways. I said, for example, the sun will warm up all the oceans and the seas, and it'll evaporate water, and that condensation process brings it back down again. But in amongst all that, it creates a lot of pressure, and that pressure goes to low pressure, and we call that wind. That wind is lateral displacement. It's lateral sideways movement that we see everywhere, every single day. I know we don't see wind, but we see the effects of it. No one disputes that we get wind. That's literally lateral displacement. I said, but it's never really thought of because like wind isn't really a solid matter. But even like a rubber duck, like when a boat capsizes and it sheds its load and a rubber duck ends up on the surface and it's laterally floating along the surface of the water, be it curved or flat, that little little rubber duck gets picked up by somebody somewhere and goes, I wonder where that duck came from. That duck's laterally displaced. We see lateral displacement everywhere, but we've never really thought about it because we've been indoctrinated and brainwashed into thinking that everything moves up and down. He said, well, what about this downwards bias then? I said, where have you been watching that from? So he gave me some channel names, and I said, right, the thing is, when you realize that all objects of matter that we can make are more dense than the medium. I said there isn't the perception of downward bias anymore. It then becomes explained. It's explained by virtue of the mass or the solid in question. I said, so because all objects of mass are more dense than the medium that we live in, that's why there is this perceived downwards bias. But when you explain to somebody the reason why they've got the bias, then that perception is no longer there. It's now explained. I said all objects of mass are more dense than the medium. And he sat there, there's a pause, and he's thinking, and I could almost smell the brain matter, the grey matter ticking over. And he said, so why are so many people making this into a big issue? I said, I don't know. I said, I've been trying to find out myself. And again, there was another pause. And he was watching a live show from last night where somebody very prominent was in chat, and they were talking about it. But we see lateral displacement everywhere. For example, fill up a bucket. If you pour water into a bucket, if we didn't get lateral displacement, you would have to fill up a bucket with vertical strips of water. And we don't do that, do we? We fill up the bucket, it hits the bottom of the bucket, it spreads laterally, and then once it gets to the sides of the container, then it starts to go up. The answer, or the reason why we struggle to see lateral displacement, is a little bit of ignorance on our side, and usually volume. Once you get more volume, it spreads out sideways and you see lateral displacement. But we do see lateral displacement. It's all around us. You just need to think about it a little bit more, a little bit critically, and stop accepting the perception or the claim that there's a downwards acceleration bias. There isn't a bias. There's just that perception, because that's the perception that person has, and it's explained. He went away and he's having a good think. He's obviously new. He's like 15 years younger than me, and he's genuinely asking the questions. But he's a produce of cross-pollination from other channels where other topics are being talked about, and it's the kids that are coming through, which is fantastic. So like, if we do get new kids coming through, and it's not the usual idiots like Rumpus and whatever, let's treat them with a little bit of cotton wool, because like these are the new kids on the block now, and Rumpus and all them are on the way out. So they need to hang up the microphones. It's the new kids coming through that we want to focus on. Shout out to the new kids.
You can treat them with kit goods, but in that respect, I'm knowing that story, I'm more inclined to go with the QE method, which is just give them a fair warning. Talk shit, expect pain.
No, that's what you give to Rumpus. When you give it to genuine people, genuinely asking questions that don't know, they don't want to be twatted. Let's just be nice with them and explain it, because they deserve it. It's new to them, isn't it? You can't go hard on them when they're totally new and asking genuine questions.
No, questions are all fine. That's not what I said. Anyway, I don't need to say it again. I think my point's been made. I like that you'll play ball when it's somebody that you're trying to disseminate the information to, whereas I ask you which way an apple grows, and I'll get at least 7 minutes of obfuscation with you not just saying up.
Sorry, nice, Tony, to newbies. Then I've got another word for the glossary: Orwinian Paradox.
Yeah.
You want me to
go on? Remind me. I remember this. This is to do with Coriolis, isn't it?
No, sit down. You've had your gravity moment. The Irwinium Paradox is the problem that if you are to assert in rebuttal to the Black Swan argument as detailed earlier that the horizon is refracted, then the refraction used in a globe Earth model is based on an R value, and the R value is derived from a geometric physical tangent point horizon. In other words, you're moving the horizon to a non-physical location with a mathematical derivation of the physical tangent point that you're moving. It's a paradox. So the Irwinian paradox is moving the horizon with an R value, because you can't move it with an R value if it's needing to be in that position to get the R value. The horizon, the tangent point, the physical geometric sphere edge, the Earth curve, debunked in the Black Swan, just in case that or they or it wasn't clear in that description.
Yeah.
Quantum looming.
What?
What?
This is new to me.
I missed that third again.
I know what quantum looming is. That's John's temperature when he starts getting annoyed. As quantum looming increases, he gets more aggressive. That's what that is.
Quantum looming. Oh no, quantum looming.
Or I know there's another one. Quantum's pressed the thing to join the link hangout thing. You know, the press to join thing. But Nathan hasn't seen it yet, and he's sat there waiting to come in. So quantum is looming.
That's good.
Quantum looming, not fuming.
I would assume quantum. Oh, sorry.
Quantum looming's got me in stitches. Let me tell you.
Oh, goody. Well, quantum looming, to me, I would interpret it as it's looming until it's like no longer looming because it's not convenient in the approach of the argument you're using. So it can be looming or not looming depending on the argument of approach, and that would, I guess, keep it in a quantum state. Is that it?
No, it relates to John's redefining of the Baller's term of looming.
Oh, I know. Quantum looming would be the more accurately described mirage of the sky below the apparent horizon to cause the effect of objects sat on the horizon to appear as though they are floating.
Correct. Easy one then. Uncle Bubby.
What?
I missed that. Say again.
Uncle Bubby.
Still didn't get it. Is it me?
Uncle.
Alberuni.
Yeah.
Al
I
Baruni.
was going to come to Alberuni.
Yeah, well, it's Uncle Bubby, you see. So
Bubby.
somebody has Uncle
Yeah,
Bubby.
Bubby. What about him?
Oh, just to qualify that it is Alberuni. It's in a glossary term, isn't it? It would
Oh,
be.
Bubby, I see. In glossary terminology, Bubby is Al Baruni, the guy that's measuring a physical geometric sphere edge horizon formerly known as Earth curve to give him the R value. That geometric horizon that's now refracted paradoxically to a non-geometric location. That's Al Baruni. Bubby.
I'm running dry now.
Did you guys catch this yesterday in the last week or so? Let me just screen share while this is on. This is brilliant. I think this is present screen, present my entire. This is fantastic. So look at the date of this. Click accept. So this is dated last week. Where is the date? I don't know what date it is. It is last week. It's basically a regurgitation of a previous story that we're really familiar with. I'm just trying to see what date this was. It was one day last week.
Yeah,
This is quantum looming.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. You know, when Al Baruni went up his mountain and he observed the horizon and he calculated his dip angle, unless he had a big, massive boat on the horizon in the very, very distant like observation, like he wouldn't know that this effect was or was not in play anyway. So we could just easily, in the same way that they just flippantly apply gravity when we manipulate the density of the medium to cause an acceleration, we can just flippantly apply this this apparent dip angle caused by a refractive effect that Al Baruni could never have known whether it was there or not, because no boat would be big enough to see at the distant horizon, and just say that the sky is being reflected over the top of the horizon and it's actually significantly higher than where he perceives, and there is no dip angle whatsoever. But we wouldn't do that because we've got no evidence of it, and we wouldn't flippantly assert it like they do with gravity and after stuff that they do. But I just wanted to point out that this came out, oh, there we go, 10th of March. This came out one day last week, right? And people were talking about it. Now, obviously, we all understand all this. But people were talking about it, saying, whoa, what's going on there? Is the boat really? And doing the usual thing that we did like years ago. And what I realized is that we're living on this little corner of the YouTubes. We're living a little tiny parallel universe that's independent from other little circles in the YouTubes, where they're having their parallel universe and they're just somewhat distant behind us in time. We're very much penned in here, and it's weird that they, you know, like people are coming to this topic through regurgitated stories in the mainstream media that obviously we've been talking about for ages, and they're like, wow, and we're like, yeah, come into Nathan Oakley's and have a chat. It's great.
Cool. Are there any more glossary terms that we need to cover? There's a couple that have come up from chat. If not, Adam?
No, I said I'm running a little dry. If people want to help out, I'll jot them down and save them. But yeah,
Okay.
throw 'em in.
From the chat, we got Dal West Watson, who I do believe dropped a super chat. He gave me £2 to say first, question mark. Thank you for the super chat. But on a more serious note, he says, Nathan, what about unicorn farts and Narnia? So who wants to cover unicorn farts?
I can't remember what unicorn farts were involved with. What's that related to?
The unicorn farts is where you've got something that doesn't actually exist, then a subset of something that doesn't exist that you're going to qualify with maths and reify into existence by way of describing it mathematically. So I can reify...
Oh, like gravity then?
Yeah, it's used normally alongside gravity, correct.
So unicorn farts is basically reifying into existence something physical by way of mathematics, i.e. gravity. Got
Exactly.
it. That makes sense.
Exactly. It's a parallel with the reification process that's done when talking about gravity. So you just parallel it with unicorn farts, and you've got the same thing where the thing being described rather than gravity, which everyone sort of nods when they hear. They go unicorn farts and stop nodding. So it's just a parallel. The other one is Narnia. The reason we use Narnia is because it's, again, similar sort of principle. I think that's probably why Dale West Watson picked these two. It's a similar principle to having fake gas or unicorn farts, in the respect that you've got a fake place. So you can discuss the gas lamp, for example. How much gas in Narnia does the gas lamp they encounter when they've gone through the wardrobe actually consume? Now, the reason that's an interesting question is because, well, you can just calculate how much gas. Well, no, you can't, because if you forget about the laws that apply to Narnia, when they move through the wardrobe, right, when they arrive on the other side, the time that they're actually experiencing is nothing like the time on the previous side of the wardrobe. In other words, when they go back through it, they're the age that they went through in the first instance. So therefore, there's a certain time dilation that you have to factor in. Now, in case anybody in the audience is now nodding along, bear in mind I'm now talking about calculating how much gas is consumed in a place that doesn't exist. Likewise, you can calculate how much fuel's used to travel through a fake place they call space, an area that the gas we're breathing would fill if it was an availability of volume, a space for gas to fill. Then gas would fill it and we'd all be dead. Meanwhile, they calculate how much fuel they need to use whilst travelling through this fake place, like Narnia. So while we could argue all day about the time dilation and how much it affects the fuel use in that gas lamp, based on which side of the wardrobe you're on, you can also calculate how much fuel it takes to travel through a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum called outer space.
Very good.
Oh,
Got another one there from Del. Sorry, Brian. There's a great description of the next one. Rumpus. To rumpus someone.
That's defined.
Continually over speaking to stop the point being made.
Yeah.
It's not our glossary.
Brian as he comes in now.
It's not.
Yeah.
Hold on. The word rumpus. Hold on. The word rumpus is defined. The word rumpus means a disturbance. That's what it means. We use it as a verb, though, don't we?
Yeah.
To rumpus.
Yeah, we use it as a verb. Yeah.
To rumpus is to mute the person that you are talking to by continually utilizing verbal diarrhea while that person's speaking.
Something like this, like what I'm doing to you now?
No, because I paused. You haven't got the rumpusing down. There you go. Used in context.
We need to have a unique one, though, for Arwin. You know when we have a deliberate pregnant pause and Arwin goes, I can help you with that. It's not quite rumpusing, but it's like, what, opportunism?
Excuse me.
Arwinian opportunism.
I'm going to call that.
There's an old one for Arwin that Nathan used to call him, and when he was contrarian, but that was more. I remember from back in the days. Oh, man.
I'm going to give that a new term. I'm going to call it inverted irony.
All right.
No, Arwin's just clever enough to turn around any argument, and sometimes.
Yeah.
Takes
Sometimes I don't care for the political perceived advantage from flat earthers because I'm basically assuming we've already won anyway. So I just don't hold.
I wouldn't say it's an advantage. I wouldn't say it's an advantage from flat earthers, Arwin. I'd say it's waiting for Rumpus to actually answer the question, and he's cornered. That is what it is.
Yeah, and then waiting an hour long, like the previous 100 times, of that not actually happening. Yeah. I know.
He wants a leg.
You wait, so you apply pressure.
I want to know if Alwyn could have helped Rumpus yesterday.
Of course he could.
He did. Arwin doesn't know that, but I know that. Arwin helped Rumpus.
Did I?
Yeah, maybe you do know based on that tone.
Well, he shouted out to me, and then I said, yes, I can, but
I know what he did. I know what it was.
So.
I know what it was. Arwin said something, and Rumpus used Arwin's words as a distraction to move away from the point that Nathan was on to try and answer a much easier question with Arwin to get himself off the hook.
Precisely. That's exactly what he did. So while I'm pointing out that they haven't got a straight line, a tangent, the thing required in their model to assert they've got a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve, he then wanted to get Irwin to present an image so we could talk about the administration of his image being presented as a distraction. And Irwin was like, well, I'm not going to take that hook, but I will decide to reinvent the bait that's been put out and say, I'm interested in how your bendy donkey dick geometry works. He didn't actually say it in those words, but that's effectively what his question was when he took his opportunity. And to be fair to him, I let him, because it's like, you know, like Irwin says, he sat there indefinitely. I know the only reason Rumpus is doing it is because he's terrified of talking to me, because he'll have to respond. So getting Irwin to respond with a question is far easier. Or in this case, getting Irwin to fulfill his administration demands when Irwin just immediately spins that into a point that he wants to make. Epic on Irwin's part. Right, Irwin's not stupid either.
Thanks. It was very obvious, and Rumpus appeals to me a lot of times. I
Yeah,
don't
that's
know.
because he gets cornered a lot.
Well, maybe I just give him kind of a safe feeling. Like, despite everything he knows, like Irwin does accept ballers to have their own religion. You know,
Let's
Maybe that's
put ourselves into Rumpus's shoes at that moment, right? Nathan's got him cornered, and there's a pause, and then Arwin comes up with something, and Rumpus goes, "Phew! I can focus on Arwin now. Thank you very much, Arwin." And he'll come across as very amiable.
Just ask
He
Irwin
waits for
something.
Arwin to say something so we can get off the hook.
Just, I'm going to go out on a limb.
how it happened. I was
Owen,
just
I'm just going to ask you a quick
conversating
question.
with the
I'm going to
rest
go out
of
on a
them.
limb here because you've only done it twice. If it was 3 times, I'd assert it with some certainty. Have you recently been looking at verbal magic by any chance?
No, it's just in my blood.
It's 2 magic tricks I counted in the last 3 minutes. 2 verbal magic tricks from Irwin.
What?
You put
Verbal.
yeah, the
I think
first
you're
one.
giving him too
the
much
first,
credit, Nathan.
the first magic trick.
No,
was you,
I'm sure I deserve that credit. I just have to be informed about it first.
You sure you deserve it, but you're not sure what he's referring to? I'm not having
Is
that.
that like magic speed?
Hey, the best magic tricks, you don't know how they work. You just do it.
well, let me
Yeah, now
tell you
that
what they
you know
were.
by the sounds of it.
I'm going to
What-
forget the second
exactly
one if
what?
I'm not careful. So the first one was Irwin putting flat earthers in terms of a debate where he's arguing with someone as, I can't remember how I phrased it exactly, but he politically, I'm not going to let the flat earthers have the advantage. The way it was phrased was in such a manner that made it absolutely empirical to the audience that flat earthers are in the dominant position. And that he's not going to wait, regardless of whether or not they are in that position at the time that he's going to make his interruption. The verbal magic trick being he's positioned flat earthers in the dominant position in the structure of the argument by way of phrasing. And he did it a second ago as well, and I knew I'd forget it. What was the one you just did a second ago? I can't remember now. I'll get it in the
was
replay and I'll put it in the
but
comments.
it's not a magic trick. It's true.
True here.
We are in the winning position. You know, and in
True
the
here.
process, we all get used to, oh, come on, we just want that one concession, you know, the myth of the baller concession. And we kind of chase that.
Yeah, the magic trick
But
is
we've
because you used
already
the word
won, really. So
you used the word politically, and therefore you expanded it out. That's the magic trick. That's what I'm saying. Here, that's true. But by way of your language, you expanded it out in such a way that the audience would perceive it to be much more widespread. I just thought it was clever. You know, if you've done that naturally, you're not trying to weasel in some clever linguistic magic. But
right. Well, I did use the word political or politicized because that is not just politics, a specific region of conversation and government. It's also a way of going about from group to group in arguments. And there is politicization. That's just what people do typically, especially when they get very passionate about their subject. So I do tend to involve that word on a regular basis because it happens. It's normal.
quick shout out to Godzilla37 says Canadian quote unquote money equals unicorn farts. Sorry, it's the only kind I have. Thank you very much. I would say that it's quite the contrary. Canadian money's magical if you're a fan of Linus Tech Tips, because they'll quote the price of some electronics, and if you forget that they're giving it in Canadian dollars, you go, that's expensive, till you look it up and go, hey! Anyway.
Except they clarify most of the time if it's in Canadian or US dollars.
I couldn't decipher that. Do you want to try that once more, a bit louder?
I think he was
Don't
saying
be
something
shy.
about. I think he was saying something about like except the times when they identify specifically Canadian dollars.
Yeah, but that ruins my joke.
Oh, let's not dwell on it. Nathan, put my screen on quick.
No,
Okey-dokey.
we were talking about a glossary, right? Of all the words, terminology. Has physicality assumption bias been?
I
Well-
think we've all rumpus Brian long enough for him to bring it to he is now.
Agreed.
What? Where is
When
it?
we brought up rumpus, Brian was trying to speak. So
Oh, my bad. Sorry, Brian.
I have no idea what I was going to say.
Well, whilst,
Carry on.
whilst he's
I'll
working
just,
it out,
I'll just say good morning.
whilst he's
Hello,
working it out, and I've got my thing on screen, let me just give a really quick one-liner, just to make the audience aware for today that yesterday's show, Rumpus failed to give an account for how this is explained on the Ball Earth, because he always wants to flip it into orthographic view so that he can maintain, or he can make that beam much, much bigger because of divergence, and basically deny and ignore perspective. So at the moment, it's unanswered by Blurthers. So we're hoping that if Rumpus is watching, he could join and maybe come back with a bet, or maybe present an argument today, one that doesn't involve orthographic, but probably not. Morning, Chocolate.
Morning, brother. How's it going?
Doing well. We've just gone through a glossary. I want to cover physical assumption bias, and then if there's any more glossary terms, then we'll actually get to housekeeping.
oh, I'll write that down. That's a goodie.
So, physical assumption bias, normally in regards to the luminaries. Arwin, take it away.
He's gone.
He's gone.
Physical.
He's gone.
He's disappeared.
So the physical assumption bias is that we assume that everything that we see in the night sky, that are essentially lights, we just give them a physicality in the same way that we anthropomorphize dogs to be human-like. Well, they do the same thing with regards to physicality of the sky. Anything in the sky can't possibly be light. It has to be physical. Well, they just assume that.
A difficult word.
Do you know any immaterial lights?
Just
Immaterial
detail
lights.
them.
Yeah, all lights are immaterial.
The ones in the sky?
Do you know any light sources that are immaterial?
The-
that do
The
not
lights in
have
the
a
sky? Second time reiterating Anthony's point that you've completely
That's
ignored.
begging the question.
The sun.
Sorry,
the
what's
sun.
begging the question? Hold on, guys. You want to make a point, Morty?
Well, saying, lights, there can be immaterial light sources because the lights in the sky are immaterial. To prove that the lights in the sky are immaterial is begging the question of the lights in the sky being immaterial.
Right, an
But we're
assumption.
making the point that you're begging the question by assuming that they are physical.
Well, you were saying that this is not an assumption. That,
Nah,
that
we
this
just
is not
say
a
they're
reasonable
lights.
assumption.
You're the
Have
one.
you
You're
touched
the one
any
who
of these
says
lights
they're
in the sky?
material.
This is
You got it,
another
obviously
fallacy
not.
of the quote. It's physicality assumption bias. And we're not saying they are definitely not physical. We're saying that you make that physicality assumption. Yeah. We're not making a claim.
Yeah,
We're
based
just
on-
pointing out that your claim has that physicality assumption without anything to actually prove it. The sun isn't tangible, is it? So we've not. Doesn't mean it couldn't be. Doesn't mean some of them couldn't be. Yeah, the moon, for example. But at the moment, you have an assumption bias without any actual evidence.
Exactly. We call them lights. You think we can land on them?
That was the wrong fallacy about begging the question. If he was going to try to push it from a baller's perspective, he should have said it was a special pleading fallacy.
But we're not making any claim to make it special pleading. We're not saying.
No, not
anything.
us. Them.
Didn't I just?
You missed
say
what he
that?
said.
No, he said
No,
it from a
no.
baller
I said.
perspective. He's
No,
going to come a call fallacy on us. Correct, John?
Yeah, he will see from his paradigm. He's saying everything's physical because only so anything that you see has to be physical, and for you to assert that they're not physical, then that's a special pleading from that standpoint.
Yeah, not bad.
Well, he said. Do you know of any light that's not physical? That's
Yeah,
how he
so
came in.
I get you, Neil. So in that question, he's basically proving our point in terms of his physical assumption bias. Epic.
Yeah,
Well
yeah.
caught, Neil.
That's why I corrected him, saying that we were pointing out that problem, and he's used that problem against me as though I'm making the claim. And I'm like, no, it's the other way around, you Burke.
Perfect. Now I get to ask him. So what's triggered this burden of proof reversal fallacy? What's triggered you about this particular subject? Morty. I'm intrigued to know why this triggered you, my friend. Could you let us know? No? Just wanted to burden proof reversal fallacy, and when it failed, just shut down completely mentally.
I'm not taking credit, but I was kind of poking him in the voice chat.
I can do his. I can give his argument for him if you need me to.
Let's come off mute now. See, why did that trigger you?
Nothing triggered me.
I mean, it inspired you to reverse the burden of proof and challenge us to prove our debunking of your claim that they are assumed to be physical. What inspired that? Share your pain. Do you not like us pointing out that assumption of their physicality in a sky vacuum? Do you not like that? Is that why you attempted to reverse the burden of proof? Here to help. We're trying to nurture you. Share your pain.
Oi! Oi, oi!
Thank you, Neil.
What?
Just trying to get his attention.
Are we in the ocean?
I give up. Go ahead. Do some housekeeping.
Good for you.
Okay,
So he is there. He's just completely ignoring you.
Shut down mentally. As soon as the fallacy you used was pointed out and discussed a little bit, he shut down. He's like, oh, I'm having no part of this.
Well, that's a normal. That's a normal ball.
Come on, Morty, don't be shy.
What's your problem, Nathan?
I want to know what inspired you to use that fallacy.
Nothing. As you could derive from my silence. As smart as you are.
But you asked, you attempted to reverse the burden of proof, which implies that this raises an issue for you, something that you feel that you should challenge us on. In other words, it has, by definition, triggered you into action. You felt the need to spring into action over this particular point. I'd just like to know why. Obviously, there's something about us debunking your physical assumption bias that you don't like. I'd just like to know what it is.
No, you have not debunked my physical assumption bias. You have pointed it out. And secondly, I did jump to conclusions about what was implied through that statement. So, yeah.
I'll step off. I take it all back. Wow, I can't believe I'm almost speechless. A moderate concession. Thank you very much. I'm checking on my own words. My God.
I'm just trying to double check. Was that actually a concession? I've never heard one before.
I almost didn't recognise it for a second, Anthony. It wasn't on topic or anything, but my God, yes, they are capable.
He said his physical assumption bias was pointed out. He didn't deny that he had it. He said it was pointed out. His words.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful in all regards. It was almost admirable as a baller. My God.
These are rare moments. Enjoy them.
Wait to put it right.
Radiance.
I don't see why you would
There
enjoy
will be
these things
1,000
like
more
that because
denials.
they disprove the assertions that you made, that you categorize me in.
Correct.
I'd like to add something.
Feel free.
Isn't it that you think that the physicality goes something like reactions of gas in a vacuum.
Reactions of gas in a vacuum.
Like, what's the sun, right? Those lights. That's the
No,
light we're talking
don't
about.
want it.
One of them. What?
You're roboting a lot. I can't make out what you're trying to say.
Okay, I think he's just trying to take you to the next step in the argument, because there's a reason why we point out the physical assumption bias. We were just going through glossary terms. But the reason, I mean, we can get into that if you like, but it'll be a lot more painful for you.
Please stop making assumptions about my person, what will be painful for me and what not, and what I'm thinking and what not and what not. You know, it's just needless.
Okay, well, let's see how we get on. The assumption of the physical lights in the sky also has violations of the second law of thermodynamics within those assumptions. For example, and I think that was what Elijah was trying to drive at, you've got things like the sun claimed to be a burning ball of gas in a sky vacuum. Absurd.
Did you catch all that?
He's gone. Dropped.
Nice rebuttal.
Nice. Might be back. He could have
Or
an
a
issue.
connection issue. Maybe he restarted.
Yeah, he could just have a connection issue. Don't come to conclusions. I don't think he was running scared.
Good, because we're on 13, and I don't want 13. It's not a good number, so I need one more.
We're on 13. What?
About my favorite childbirth.
You probably missed it. I'll read them back. Not describe them all, but just read the titles of the glossary terms we've covered. So we've got Tinchin, Globiolis, Coriolis virus, Muppet Vision, Horizon, Black Swan, Uncle Bubby, Rilean Gravity, Irwinium Paradox, Quantum Lumen, Unicorn Farts, Narnia, Rumpus, and Physical Assumption Bias.
Nathan, do the holographic hyena one.
Oh, beautiful.
I was going to say numpty dipshit.
That speaks for itself, Neil.
That's just ad hom.
Full wording, Nath, for that I need.
I don't know what the tension thing is.
I'll take a big breath to say it, so.
Yeah.
A slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena holographic projection of a clock from behind the now debunked reified sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve.
Yeah, you can send me that one in Skype. I'm not writing.
Can we have an acronym for it rather than the whole thing? A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
You could just call it fractal looming. That's what I used to call it.
Does require
Hey, I'll tell you one word that needs word that needs to go in there. Relative density. You got to put relative density in because it's obviously forcing the person that's thinking that an object is being attracted by a force, forcing that person to consider the effect of the medium on that matter. There you go.
Okay, just so it's in the glossary definitions. Anthony hijacked it slightly. So a slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena holographic projection of a clock from behind the reified, now debunked sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve. The reason you've got that, what seems like word salad, every word has a very distinct and important meaning to it, I assure you. It's only because of each individual important meaning that each word has that I can rattle it off in the way I do. But the reason for it is because we have, for example, a clock in the distance 20 miles, and as a flat earther you go, there's a clock. That is the end of the explanation required as a flat earther. If you want to, you could give its distance. You don't have to, but you could say, clock, 20 miles away. Now, if someone was to say, why do you see it? That's an absurd question for a flat earther. Why do you see it? Well, because I've got a set of eyeballs. I see it because it's there. It's a nice clear day. Who cares? It's a clock. I see it. Why do I need to explain seeing it? Do I walk out to my car and have to explain seeing that? No. Why? Well, because it's a very far distance. So? Well, for us, there's no explanation required. Hope I've highlighted that sufficiently. For a globe believer, there's supposed to be a tangent point horizon, formerly known as Earth curve, that obscures the view of the clock. Therefore, when you see a clock, it shouldn't be there for a globe believer. But it is there. Therefore, it's a hologram of a clock that's actually not there. It's hidden by an Earth curve edge that you can't see, can never be seen, and is now debunked by the Black Swan. And that will be done by way of a begging the question, that's to assume the outcome, curve calculator that has taken the effects of perspective and called them Earth curve. So when you see something that's just far away and it's a clear day and there's no reason to justify seeing it, it's actually a holographic projection of something that isn't there. It's hidden by a curve you can't see, if you're a globe believer. But just in summary, for us, there's a clock, flat earther, clock. Globe believer, slightly looming, non-standard refracted hyena holographic projection of a clock from behind the now debunked reified sphere edge horizon formerly known as Earth curvature.
Doesn't
That
the
was
hyena
brilliant.
deserve a mention? Because that's from Tim Osman's initial pictures of showing Earth curve that don't show Earth curve now.
Correct.
Isn't
We
it?
had hyenas
They
in the
used to
foreground.
claim that, didn't they?
Good point. I should explain where it was derived from. So Tim Osman came on. He's got pictures. Nobody claims the horizon is Earth curve. End quote. Tim Osman. He's got his pictures of Earth curve edge horizons staggered on top of each other. Now currently being presented with the title "This is Earth curve" above it. How ironic. Anyway, on one of them, he's got hyenas in the foreground that, to a globe believer, quote, should not be there. So what are they? Slightly looming non-standard refraction hyenas?
I got one. I don't know if it qualifies, but housekeeping questions.
I think that's fair enough.
Any more for the glossary?
I got a housekeeping question. Is there any sign of a magic speed in which
That's gotta be the
asteroids
one.
can achieve and from any angle produce a completely circular impact crater? Any signs of that?
Impact
I've
craters.
got no sign.
88 miles per hour.
Did you wiggle your fingers when you said magic?
The surface level magic
That's
trick
the
is
best
obviously
part.
what Chocolate's addressing, but the secondary level magic trick may go unnoticed, and as I pointed out, which is to say impact craters. Well, that sounds like a bit of a begging the question fallacy there in itself now, doesn't it? What do you mean impact craters? So you're explaining these assumptions of craters, something having hit them, as being magic angles that come in to create the quote-unquote impact craters. Why are they impact craters now, Chocolate, exactly? Whatever gives you that idea?
Because they assume that the thing is physical. That physical assumption bias.
That
we were
physical
talking about
assumption bias again now, isn't it?
before? Indeed, it is.
Turns out there is a magic speed.
Somebody's playing the clip. Creation Bear, thank you very much.
Notice how he says magic.
I love how he says it though. Like he's talking
Raise-
to a class full of children.
He
Turns
raises his
out,
voice.
magic speed. Gotta love
Magic
it.
speed.
He did the same thing with the
Any
football.
That's how you communicate science.
Any signs of ballers being able to
I
recite
went back to my
the Black
room.
Swan
I
argument?
got a few numbers,
Hold
and I
on to-
did this math, and I did that math, and that ball moved. He did the same thing with the football, the field goal.
Wow.
Go ahead, Eric. Try once more.
Any sign of ballers being able to recite the Black Swan argument?
That's painful for them.
Too painful, yeah. Couple of ballers on. Anyone want to give it a bash? Moving on.
One second. You know, we didn't hold Rumpus to it yesterday. We should have made him recite the Black Swan argument.
In an ideal world, Neil, yeah. But in terms of I know Rumpus understands the argument. He understands how it debunks the model, and he understands what needs to be done in order to try and negate that problem. So, yeah, in an ideal world, we'd demonstrate it, but I'm pretty certain that he could quote it verbatim. I don't underestimate Rumpus. I know we all call him an idiot, but often when he's doing those stupid things, there's an intent behind it. There is a purpose.
Oh, I know
We
he
don't
can
really
quote it.
need
I'm
him
not-
to
hold
recite
on.
the argument though,
I'm
because
not
he's
saying he
got the
can't.
best concessions. We do
Exactly.
have a geometric horizon. We don't have a geometric horizon. Geometric horizon only exists in the math. He's got the best concessions, man.
No, but I'm not saying he can't. I know he can, but I want him to.
But he's
Well,
here
that's
to do
where he
damage
got you
control.
because
And like
his,
Nathan,
his
Nathan
main
said,
mastery is postponing that.
and
So
like Nathan said, in
you
a
get the
perfect world,
expectation, and he steals your time by not giving it to you.
No, but in reciting
No.
that, he has to say that
Talking
Earth is
about
not
it
a
right
sphere.
now like he's
No, go on, Nathan.
Elijah, go ahead, Elijah.
No, I was like, then we talk about him now like he's relevant. I did want to housekeeping question, but after you guys are done with this.
Well, I disagree. Rumpus is on the cutting edge of doublespeak.
Rumpus's trick starts at the very first line. The very first thing comes out of his mouth. He comes in and he calls you an idiot or says you don't understand. Yeah, and he comes in, right, with a kind of an air of false confidence, right? And that is for people to try and he's trying to sound out to see if he can put you on shaky ground, to see if you're shaky. And then he'll come in and attack. He'll attack anyway, but he's going to see if he can put you on shaky ground by putting you on the back foot, making you think, oh, I watched you, but how dare you call me that? Maybe trigger you, and maybe think you maybe think that you are wrong, and maybe he's right. It's kind of a false confidence thing.
It's called gaslighting. He always enters with gaslighting.
Yeah, but he starts with this. He starts with this character assassination. That's what he starts with. The idea is to put doubt into the opponent's mind. That's what he does. He comes in with this kind of confident air. But he always ends up, if you listen long enough, he always ends up having to leave with his tail between his legs and being proven to be the person that he claimed someone else was with his first line. But the problem is that if people don't listen that far, all they hear is this really confident glow boy guy coming in and, calling people stupid and kind of arrogant, but yet he's making it, he's not making a point, but he's what's the word I'm looking for? He's putting himself in a position of authority straight away.
Keeping up the pretense
like he's coming down to help us.
Keeping up the pretense that it's perfectly acceptable to just call us idiots under any circumstances.
I don't know what you're talking about. You hide in your bunker, Nathan.
Hey, can we get one housekeeping question in?
No.
Maybe.
No.
In a glossary show. So we've got one from the super chat. Al Junkie, thank you very much indeed. He says, first and foremost, are you kidding me? Question mark. Best FED word is circumdicular, which is an Irwinian word. Arwin, circumdicular.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Circumdicular geometry.
Hey, I came up with Euclid in me.
I'm not sure whether Euclid in me makes it. That's just a good pun.
Yeah, it's just a good pun, I'm afraid. Circumdicular, we'll go through that because it's also known as donkey dick geometry. But go ahead, Arwin.
Yeah, don't allow puns because I'll take the list.
Right. Circumdicular geometry is the system the ballers use within their mathematical frameworks and their thoughts of how to basically apply the radius of Earth presumed to everything. And that results in an R-based math with everything they utilize. So that'll make a literally measured straight surface slightly circular to them. They will argue it for that argument when push comes to shove. They will do it. They will say nothing is straight. And that's because of circumdicular geometry.
Was that a pun in there? They will argue it.
God, come on. This is language. What can you do? Right. If you want to fill in more details about circumdicular geometry, I'd like to leave that to you, Nathan.
Donkey dick geometry. Feel free to check out the show that comes out tonight. Actually, I'll plug that. So I just released a little advert for it. it's the advert that's released and comes out at the time of the show is a new clip, although the trailer isn't. But that's released now, so you can check it out. I've called it Tangent Teabag, and that just is a precursor to the Uncut and After show that comes out tonight on my second channel. Now, obviously, I would love to plug my second channel every single show, but it's a bit, you can't really do that. But in this instance, I am going to plug my own show because all of the clips that came out yesterday, there's 3 now, were all from that show. And they were all based around what we've just discussed. So the notion that Rumpus can come in and see some crack in my logic when I'm saying to do geometry, you're going to require a tangent. If you've got a tangent point, you've got a straight line meeting it. Where'd you get the straight line? I don't know if it got up to 20 times. He was asked the same question with him just responding, you're an idiot. And that didn't break any barriers. It didn't break anything in terms of his ability to break me, as described by Brian earlier. What it did get was me saying, you're an idiot. You don't understand how geometry works. And me putting up various different descriptions and pictures of their model with its tangent points. So it wasn't a particularly difficult battle on my part. Very embarrassing on his part. But he still managed to maintain the same facade of you don't understand how geometry works, which is his only tact, to give a false impression to anyone who's on his side that really I don't understand, while I'm absolutely humiliating him. Now, that show was just 2 hours straight of me humiliating Rumpus. It was a proper dressing down, as 10th Man put it in the comments.
Well, Nathan, he couldn't give you a straight answer because he actually went off on a tangent.
That was the most
tangent
obvious
that he
pun
said
you could have had,
was
but
not
why not?
necessary.
Sorry, go on. Chocolate.
No, the same tangent that he said was not necessary in reality.
But that was his point.
Right.
I was trying to ask in the background. I was like,
wait a minute.
According to Rumpus, you don't need a line to get a tangent point.
I jumped on your pun.
But wait a minute. Is a tangent point still a tangent point if you don't have a tangent line meeting it?
Everyone missed a good double pun.
That's the beauty.
No, you can't call it a tangent point if it's not got a tangent line to relate to it. It'd just be an arbitrary random point in
just the point.
But that's what he
so
said.
So then when he was talking about a tangent point, and then Nathan said, well, where is the tangent line in reality? Oh, we don't need that. Don't worry about that. Oh, so you don't have a tangent point then. You just got a point.
No, he said you don't need the line. He said a point.
Yeah,
not a line.
exactly.
Don't you understand,
Yeah,
Nathan?
you don't need the line, but if you don't have the line, the point's not a tangent point. So yeah,
that's you've summarized it beautifully, but that was gone round and round in circles. I think it was 17 or 18 times with me just saying, no, you're wrong, you're an idiot, and him saying no, me saying you don't need a straight line when describing a tangent being a straight line, is him displaying his idiocy at the detriment of himself in order to throw himself on the grenade that is the death of the heliocentric world. So, it was extremely enjoyable for me to berate him non-stop and point out as he's coughing and getting a dry mouth and stuttering. It was epic.
That brings in your next one, Nathan, then Teabag.
Teabag, yeah. We have to round out this live show. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Did I miss any super chats? Let's just have a quick look. Yes, I did. I missed one from Al Junkie. 10th Man puns below everyone away. Hashtag 10th Man fan. Indeedy do. I couldn't agree more. I am a fan of 10th Man also. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
I'm up a lot today, but let me take this on a tangent point. Sometimes you get like a random gift, right? And someone sent me an email. I don't know who it is. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, mountain.
Inbox. Yeah, the mountain's right. This guy, whoever this guy is, it's to do with Sean Huffroad, and we all know what Sean Huffroad's like. He lies continuously. He misrepresents everything. He can't quote anybody verbatim. He always twists it. Look at the email I've got here. He says, this guy, whoever this guy is, he says, I thought this would interest you, seeing Sean did a video accusing you of scamming back when you were going back to school and your fundraiser took in 150 quid more than the target goal. Sean did a fundraiser in 2019 to move to Florida with Reds. He claimed he needed the money to pay off his current lease. Turns out he never paid his lease off with the money and his landlord has had to sue him. Also, he didn't even end up moving to Florida, but instead moved to Jersey with some girl he met. He moved in with her and a husband. Here's the info, enjoy. And I was like, should I click this link? So I click the link and I'll bring it over so you can see it, because I was curious. And basically, let me just zoom out a little bit so you can see it. So basically it says, Sean Hufford, Sean's girlfriend fetish interview, which if you click that, it takes into an interview thing. Sean moved in with Cy Strikling when she was still married to her wheelchair-bound husband. This was their living conditions. Now, as far as I'm aware, this is rented accommodation, right? But look at the condition that this is in. Now, bear in mind, everyone's got their own vices and whatever. No one's fucking perfect. And I'm not trying to say that he should be perfect. I'm not. Just look at it, though. Look at, I mean, there's dog shit everywhere, right? This dog shit walked in, trodden in, and everything.
Right, I'm taking it off. I don't want to see this.
I just wanted to point out that this guy, this scummiest of people, is basically criticizing everybody for everything, and he's like the worst one for it himself.
Okay. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, bro,
I'm not going to disagree with you.
Hold on, come here worrying about flat earthers.
I do agree with you, Anthony.
I mean, I'm more worried about the dog putting an Alsatian in.
Okay, hold on. Right, your point, the only bit that was on topic, right? He accuses us of all and sundry, and he's a scumbag. Yeah, in almost all instances, these people, when I tell them to share their pain in the comments, and they're accusing us of all and sundry, it is projection. Yeah, when they accuse us of being scummy, they are scummy. Yes, that's right. But so what? You don't need to convince me that these people are scum. In this case, Sean Hawkins. Yeah, he's a scumbag. I know. What's your point?
Not Hawkins, Hufford.
Poor dog.
I know, poor dog. Look at the eyes on that dog.
I've taken it off screen.
On a carpet?
I don't want to talk about this dog shit. Sorry.
Papa Shepherd.
Even if it is the after show.
I know it's off topic, I know, but I waited until the end of the show. I got it halfway through the show and I was looking at the pictures and I was like, that poor dog.
Yeah, okay, we get it. Can please not
take it up. The screen is painful.
I know, it's horrible.
Yes, there are horrible people out there that do horrible things.
Sorry, Nathan.
Sorry, I'd cut off Chocolate and now Brian. Just at my... I'll shut up. Go ahead, Chocolate first, then Brian.
I wasn't saying anything.
I thought you said something like it was off topic or something like that. Don't worry about it. Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to put this in before the end of the live show. I'm looking at something here. I just put a stupid search term into Google, and different things came up. But one of the things came up was from the Dallas Observer in 2019. This is a flat Earth on topic. It's an interview with Michio Kaku, right? And he's been asked about what he thinks about flat earthers and whatever. Yeah, that's it there. What he thinks about flat earthers. And I just one of the questions that came into here. 1 second now, I'll go back to it. Yeah. He was asked, like, once it does, this is the question. Once it does come out and you know people are not just expressing their beliefs that the earth is flat, but we would teach it in schools and more people should go to this way of thinking, how do you keep the legend from becoming fact? Or is that not really a concern? And supposedly, this is the first part of his answer. Well, I personally do not think it's much of a concern because every time you take an airplane trip, you can see the curvature of the earth. You don't have to be a genius to figure it out. Just take an airplane trip and there it is. My God, look, you can see that the earth is curved. Now, if this really is Michio Kaku, I think he needs to have a chat with Neil deGrasse Tyson, because according to Neil deGrasse Tyson, you can't even see it from 128,000 feet.
Maybe they can have a debate over it.
That was Neil deGrasse Tyson's greatest magic trick when he takes that beach ball, slaps it, and says that stuff is flat.
Okay. What's it? What can't you see from 120,000 feet or from
An apparent position.
A what now, Chocolate?
The curvature of the Earth, supposedly.
Curvature of the Earth. And what are they referring to when they say, what are you looking at specifically out your window?
The horizon.
Oh, right. The physical geometric sphere edge tangent point formally known as Earth curve, now debunked by the Black Swan, a not actual location where the sky appears redundant to meet the land or sea. Well, that's a not actual location. It's not physical. It's not an Earth curve edge. But yet, we're going to argue all day about Michio Kaku's claim that you can see a not actual location as a physically bending Earth curve edge through the window of a domestic airliner, whereas Neil deGrasse Tyson says you can't see what I claim is a physical reified sphere edge horizon from 120,000 feet. But in both instances, it's definitely a physical Earth curve edge, right? No, the horizon's not Earth curve. But that magic trick works either way, doesn't it? It doesn't matter who's casting it, or if they're casting that you can see a curved Earth curve edge from an airliner, or you can't see a definitely physical Earth curve horizon from 120,000 feet. You'd have to get up higher to see the definitely physical Earth curve edge horizon, right? But it's definitely Earth curve edge, other than the fact we've debunked it.
They have a lot to lose, those guys.
Yeah,
but if you're a Glober, which one do you go with? Like, who do you believe? Like, if you're a big fan of Cosmos, like, do you go with Neil smoking the grass, or do you go with Michio Kaku? Like,
That's when you become a flat earther, Chocolate.
It's all sporadic picking. They like some things about them, they don't like others. Kind of like regular people.
I disagree, Arwin. I think it's the other way around. I think this is what we describe as cognitive dissonance, holding two positions simultaneously. Well, it doesn't matter if both positions in the rhetoric to be held simultaneously by the people who are under control. This is a control structure. Well, the whole point is to keep you in constant, perpetual mental pain. Yeah, that's how you do it. Doesn't matter if it's done with fear, doesn't matter if it's done with sex, doesn't matter if it's done with, in this instance, cognitive dissonance. So long as the paradigm is maintained throughout this cognitive process, in this case, you've got the cognitive process of taking what is definitely going to be, in this example, a reified sphere edge horizon we've debunked, as not being able to be seen from 130,000 feet, or the definitely debunked reified sphere edge horizon, known as Earth curve, before we debunked it, from an aeroplane that you travel from continent to continent on as an aircraft passenger. Well, either way, you're left in cognitive pain. The paradigm's maintained. The most important bit is that all of their arguments start with the horizon. Doesn't matter if they're contradicting themselves with that argument. And I can think of a current example that we're all experiencing in 2021 where there's certain contradictions being given out. Now, after the fact, the contradictions still support the narrative that's being punted, even if it's not true, and leaves people concerned with the solution to the problem. Now, without giving too much detail away and getting my channel shut down, I'm sure people can read between the lines about what I'm talking about. The point is, so long as the paradigm's maintained, the paradigm in this instance is the horizon's a physical Earth curve edge. It doesn't matter if they fuck with you while they mess with your paradigm. The Earth curve edge isn't represented by the horizon, but so long as you're worried about whether you can or can't see it, because it's definitely Earth curve edge from 100,000 feet or 40, then that works for them. You're kept in this mental position of cognitive dissonance. Works to their advantage.
unless you could actually fog a mirror and realize the double speak between the two, and just say, "Hey, how about if they're double speaking each other? How about I count them all out?" That's just crazy.
Exactly. Which is it? Do I see the Earth curve edge physical horizon from 130,000 feet, or do I see it from 40,000 feet? Or do I not see it from 40,000 feet, or not see it from 130? So you go, okay, well, let's have a look at this a bit more closely. And the answer is there is no Earth curve edge horizon. That's the answer. Not which one do you see it or don't see it from. The Earth curve isn't represented by a horizon that's non-physical. That's the actual answer.
Then you
Nathan,
look up the definition for horizon. It's like, oh, the apparent position where the sky appears to meet the ground. Apparent. Okay.
Nathan, I got two pictures for you, Master B. I was just thinking about this back and forth about what Michio Kaku said. So I'm thinking of a police lineup, and Michio Kaku comes in there, and they say, okay, identify the curve. And these two pictures, he's going to pick one of them and say it's there, but it's not there.
Black Swan, baby.
The only actual place to see the geometric horizon is in the diagram, and the diagram's like the one that Nathan shows. That's the only place.
Yeah, it only exists in the maths. If you ask them where they get a tangent from, well, it's here in my maths. Look, I draw a straight line. Well, where'd you get it in reality if all lines are bent? Everything's refracted. You don't. That's the end of their assertion that they can perform this geometric magic trick that is to reify a physical edge into the horizon. Can't do it anymore. Can't do that geometry. It's dead. We've debunked it. It is just that simple. We have debunked Earth as a sphere.
But even in an
I'm
airplane,
reading-
I've been flying plenty of times. I've never seen an apparent curve.
Even if you did,
Neither
it's not
have
Earth
I.
curve. It's not physical.
From reading some of that interview he had there with that Dallas Observer, I know it's like 3 years old now, or 2 years old, sorry. But it's pretty obvious that if that is the truth of what he's saying, if that really is what he really feels, if he came in here for 10 minutes, he would have himself ruined. If that's really, if you read some of it, if that's really what he thinks, if that's really how naive he is to the whole thing, he's in for some shock in the future. As soon as he actually sees or encounters, this, he's in trouble.
I don't think so. When it comes to that point, if it comes to that point, they'll laugh it off. They'll maintain a position that they knew all along, and there'll be some spin put on it. They'll get away with it scot-free, and they'll be kept very separate from the people who might be outraged.
I think we give them too much credit. Like the way, a supervisor or a boss doesn't really know their job, and the grunt has to do all the work and tell them how things work in their own establishment. I think it's the same way for this situation. Like, these people, they're put in the position of power because they don't ask too many questions. They're not inquisitive. They don't really know much other than what they're told. And they believe this stuff, and it's their fantasy. And that's why he sounds like a child. Because, I mean, he's probably never thought about any of this stuff. He's only heard people like Michelle, his probably dear friend, say, well, you can see it from a plane. And he's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, in a way, the kind of let's call it a lockdown on this type of information from Google and YouTube. In a way, it keeps it away from people like him also, because he's not going to have any friends who are PhDs who are going to say to him, hey, there's a problem, look at this, because they're not going to even be taking it serious, and they're not going to hear about it, they won't be searching it, and that comes up will only be flat earth society stuff. So when he speaks with absolute confidence, whereas if he came across any of the information that we speak about, then he won't be able to speak with such confidence in public.
Did you ever hear his string theory nonsense?
No, that's where
you say to him,
that's right.
hey,
Hold on, that's
Mr.
right, Brian. That's where someone like Rumpus comes in, a nameless, faceless troll who can ridicule us in the way that the public perceives we should be ridiculed in the face of a good argument. You can't have somebody that's actually got a name and a face and a reputation to do that. You need Rumpus to do that. Because if I show him to be stupid, well, who am I showing to be stupid? Is it the face of this particular religion? No, it's some nameless, faceless, inconsequential troll.
But then you could say to him, a very famous, guy once said, in science, we always say that you make observations, you have a theory, you make more observations, and it's a very, very tedious process. Wrong. Nobody that I know of in my field uses the so-called scientific method. In our field, it's by the seat of your pants. It's leaps of logic. It's guesswork.
Yeah,
Mr. Kaku.
Sorry, chocolate.
Why don't you just say it's bullshit?
Leaps of logic. Leaps of logic. Looking out the window of a plane and just deciding that it's curved.
Seat of the pants.
That was the point.
And by the way, I've been on planes and I never seen a curve.
Never see a curve from anyone.
Well, Adam.
It's interesting that what he
such a
cited,
devastating quote. I'm sorry.
In it, yeah, and the thing he cites to support his claim is to nothing. I mean, look out of a window, which is very odd. Like I said, it brings into all of his and shows his lack of understanding. It shows what his pre-assumption of what the horizon is. But I found it interesting. That's what he cites. He didn't just like the rumpus where he would come out with something that you could unpick. Basically, just an observation and an opinion that, well, you can unpick, but a very telling thing to me that's what he cites. Somebody of that significance.
That's so basic, right? That's like something like somebody off the street would tell you. It's like you didn't even put any thought into it.
For me,
look,
Yeah,
just
don't
look
you
out the
guys just
plane.
honestly feel like Rumpus comes here the entire time, right? And he has opinions. He has some information he's repeated over and over and over time. And all he really does is talk over every single person so that he can only be heard. Nathan can't be heard. No one can be heard. Disrespectful to everybody. And who wants to hear that? Then we start getting frustrated. Our brains start being like, please make him shut up. And it's all for what? So that any information that you're trying to put out there doesn't actually get heard by the people.
Yeah.
Because what you're saying means something. What he's saying is just some crazy ass opinion that he has no valid proof of.
Yeah, you've summarised the point, though. That is the point. So, number one, it's to frustrate you personally. Sometimes it's to cause someone else to cause the disturbance. So, that's what I was inferring earlier with Arwin. He'll lean on Arwin to also join in the conversation. So then three people are talking, and then you've got great disturbance that is perceived as not him doing it. And he can pull someone in to do that. Well, all those different tactics just to stop the dissemination of information and hopefully make your opponent, in this case us, look bad, get frustrated, start arguing with him, shouting, or better still, argue about what you've just discussed. I'm not knocking you by saying this, but if he can get you to enter in a discussion that's revolving around what you've just discussed, his behaviour, well, what's being achieved? Well, precisely nothing. But that's good for him.
Right. Yep. You completely now derail the conversation to what feelings and arguments about arguments. Yep. He's won. In that situation, he feels like he's won because we're not actually talking about what's important.
Exactly.
The actual valid information.
Not here to give concessions. Doesn't matter if he looks stupid. None of that matters. All that matters is that he causes a disturbance and stops the dissemination of information. Anthony once looked up the process that these types of shells use and had a list of about 7 things that they do: deny, obfuscate, confuse. I don't know if he's still around. Are you around, Anthony?
I think he left for a moment there. I think he left.
Sorry, were you talking to me?
Yeah, you had a list of all these different tactics. That I think it was J-Triggs you were looking up, and then you gave this list of like 7 things that they do, and you were already listing off your own back 4 of them. Can you remember what the list was?
Yeah, just type in JTrig and go to Wikipedia, and it gives you the list. It says it's all the D's, isn't it? It's where is it? I'm having a quick look now to see where it is. JTrig. I'll do a first. Deny. Yeah, so there we go. Dirty tricks to destroy, deny, degrade, disrupt enemies by discrediting them, planting misinformation, and shutting down their communications. Literally what they do. It's exactly their MO.
Sounds exactly like Rumpus.
Yeah, talking through everyone, shutting down communications, comes in immediately, tells the audience that you're a stupid idiot, etc., etc. So everything on that list is his MO, right? That's his modus operandi.
You know what I found?
You know what bothers me? Oh, sorry, honey. Go ahead.
Hey, Stacey. It says what I found is Joint Threat Research Intelligence Group.
You know,
Just
I'm still
before the-
learning myself,
Sorry,
okay?
Stacey.
You know, I don't know everything. I don't claim to know everything. And so when I'm over here, I want to hear what Nathan has to say. I want to hear a lot of you have to say. So when Rumpus comes in and Dibbity Dib was yesterday too, I want to shut him up because it's ridiculous that I can't hear Nathan. I want to learn. So there's actually shutting us down too from learning as well. And that is a big process for me.
If only we had a reasonable moderator to allow that to happen.
Well, I think I left Discord.
Hi,
I
Anthony.
couldn't hear a word.
Nick, you can't moderate Rumpus. Don't imply that some magical moderator. It's like when Neil said earlier, well, he should recite the Black Swan. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. He's like my little puppet, Neil. I just pull a little string and he does whatever I like.
The thing is,
you can moderate Rumpus.
Stacey, you can see it, we can see it, and the good thing about it in coming on the show is it demonstrates it to everybody. The listeners aren't daft. They're not hearing him come back with rebuttals to us. Yeah, he's just proving our point in a very childish way. But to me, I'm happy with it. If he comes on and does what he does, but we unpick it and demonstrate what he does, then that's sufficient, because that's the best the ball's got now. He's their shining knight. And if that's all he's got, and we demonstrate that, I'm happy with it.
To be fair,
If that's the best that they have, oh God, help them.
To be fair, Discord also has an audience, because number one, Discord is the place people go to interact with this show. And on top of that, a lot of gamers just come from Discord in general. I send people to the Discord. So for them not listening on YouTube, it's not the same experience.
Why aren't there any mods here?
Rumpus, what we need to understand about Rumpus, regardless of what people might think of him, whether they might see him as someone who's paid to do what he does, or he just does it because he's a faceless troll. And yeah, because people like Rumpus in particular, he does what Michio Kaku then doesn't have to do, because he's there doing it so that someone like Michio Kaku doesn't have to do it. So he's a barrier between the likes of us and the likes of Michio Kaku. But,
yeah, they're the frontline soldiers, aren't they? They're there to take the blows for other people that can't.
That's what I said earlier. He's there, exactly.
Rumpus
he's their tip of the sphere. Yeah, I just wanted to get that in because he is their tip of the sphere. So spear. Let's get it incorrectly.
Yeah. No, he is. Absolutely.
I think he's a continuous reminder, or supposed to be some type of a reminder that we are not winning. When in fact, the very fact that he has to be that is the fact that we are winning.
Yeah, but just let me finish the point I was making. The point I was making, where I was getting to, was why does Rumpus come in all the time? Why is he in all the time? Very simple. He's addicted to attention. He needs the attention. He gets
Most
the
of them,
attention.
I think it's more
gets
when Adam says that he's the pin-up guy, I don't think he is. I think most of them don't agree with him because he goes in and gets battered every single time. And he comes in against their wishes. They don't want him to come in. Yes, he is their pin-up guy in one respect, but in the other respect, why would he go against all of his peers that don't want him to come in? And there's only really one, because he has to.
No, because he's the only one with, as I would say, and I think Nathan agrees with me, that's intelligent enough to spot how quickly his argument's going to descend and be able to distract along the same lines. Look at yesterday. We were going to talk about the reflection, Tony, yeah? And instantly he's talking about beam divergence and got the topic there. He's the only one with the patter, I think, to not get destroyed or have the ability to keep going. Now, part of the ability is that rumpusing technique. He just keeps on trucking. Not many people can do that.
That's true, because I wanted to hear about that.
Yeah, I did. But there's another thing that we don't realize, because we get where they're obfuscating and why they're obfuscating, but I also agree with Sleeping Warrior's point, because when I'm in gyms, like if I'm destroying somebody's argument, they'll eat that person like a pack of hyenas and tell them to shut the F up because they're ruining the debate. And they just need someone capable. And if someone's getting battered like Rumpus, they will stick them on mute. They've stuck Zanuck on mute for getting destroyed.
Yes, Elijah, that was what I was going to say too. Is when I was over at gyms all the time for about 4 or 5 months straight. One, I barely saw Rumpus there. He's probably not liked by most of the community. I'm being honest, on his own side, because where is he? Okay, he only comes in when, like the other day too, when we're on Brandon's server and Jedi was trying to talk about stuff that was important. What happens as soon as we're winning an argument and they know it? Here comes Rumpus and his friends and Paige Chill, and here they go derailing and just arguing back and forth. So guess what? Now nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to talk about it. And we all want to leave. But that's the point. The distraction. Come in, they're winning. Oh no, throw them in. Yep.
Yeah, but what I'd say to anyone who was going to deal with Rumpus is this. It's very simple. Rumpus is a great example of this, but with all the ballers, keep it simple. If they want to get, because they're going to complicate things as much as possible. They have to complicate it. They have to throw in a load of equations, a load of nonsense. Just keep it absolutely simple. If you're arguing about something in real life, just get a photograph of it and show it to them, just like the sun rays. They argue the rays are parallel. Show them the sun with diverging rays. You don't have to get into details. And what they do is they bring people down into the weeds of begging the question, into nonsense. You just have to know their nonsense better than them and keep it completely simple. Totally simple.
You're right, they've got to get you begging the question at the Earth's sphere. Yeah. Once you start doing that, then you're fucked. Stick to the basics. Where's the measured curvature? Where's the axial rotation proof? And where's the proof of gravity? And all of those arguments, everything is based around assume ball.
Yeah, define gravity. Stick more gravity, define it. Yeah. They're not going to, they won't say, they won't talk about Einstein's theory of general relativity. They won't say that. They try and convolute something in between that and some kind of Cavendish nonsense.
And the other thing they do is they constantly chant that mass attracts mass, as though like if they can get 6 or 7 people all agreeing that mass does attract mass, then that's the position in science. It's amazing how they do it.
But they're both weak positions, because if you go with the cause, Newton, then for me, what works is asking them for the scientific validity from Newton himself. Like there should be some documentation on that. Is that unreasonable? And when I ask it like that, and there are people listening, it's like you can't just say, "F no, that's unreasonable." How about things falling, because you've lost right there. And if they go with the effect, it's like, okay, but isn't that the effect that causes the Earth to rise up to meet your feet? I mean, because I thought you guys laughed at Flat Earth Society for having that idea, but that's exactly what the math on Einstein's side is about. And then they're dead right there. It doesn't even matter.
Yeah,
I mean, they're both weak.
Don't even talk about gravity as a force of attraction, because it's not. That's over 106 years ago. There's no point. Just don't talk about that. Stick to what it is at present. And at present, gravity is a 4-dimensional mathematical effect. And the observed effect that we are told we will observe is apparent orbits in this mathematical 4th dimension. That's all it is. There is no...
Which they cannot demonstrate.
It's formally, pre-1915, formally a mathematical 3D mathematical force. Before 1915.
That's
now it's a 4... Yeah, it's 4D, a mathematical 4D effect. That's it.
But
how do we get away from...
If it was actually a force back in the day when they called it a force, would they have changed it into something that's not a force?
That's right. It started off as a force, mass attracting mass. Now it's the bending of a conceptual medium as detailed by Brian. That's pseudo-force space. So the uneven distribution of mass causing the bending of space-time. That's the current rhetoric of gravity. Exactly, Brian. As detailed, what is it, 1915, 106 years ago.
Of that.
But see, what they like to do is they like to go past that point and then go straight back into 3D and mass attracting mass. No, there is no three-dimensional mass attracting mass in Einstein's theory of general relativity. It doesn't exist. He only accounts for one mass in his field equations. Gravity, right? The effect of gravity is the effect of the curvature of space-time. And what is the observed effect of that? Apparent orbits. And it's all within a mathematical
Where's the
place.
demonstration of it?
Yes, but the point I'm making is that is what gravity is now. It's not what it once. It doesn't do any of the things that it was said to do before that. It doesn't do any of those things. It's said to curve space-time. And that curved space-time will give us the observation of apparent orbits. But these apparent orbits will be in a four-dimensional mathematical place. And the effect then is also mathematical.
Yeah, they've got.
So the only demonstration
can't
will be
demonstrate
math.
it, but they can't.
They can't, Neil.
demonstrate
You're going in circles. Brian's saying it's a mathematical description of pseudo-orbits based in a conceptual realm mathematically described as pseudo-Riemannian force space. That is gravity. That's what gravity is currently defined as, what we will see as a result, according to them, apparent orbits, described mathematically in pseudo-force space, caused mathematically in their description by the uneven distribution of mass. That is what gravity is. It was formerly a force, and now it's not a force. And that's all Brian's trying to get across. They invoke a force that's in 3D space, that's Newtonian, when they describe the pseudo-force space bending space-time. That's the current gravity. So when they say gravity, they've got not only a double meaning, one that's been superseded by the other, that's pseudo-force space bending space-time, superseding mass attracting mass. But the superseding happened 106 years ago. But they need to invoke forces here and there, so they do when they say this magic word. Now, the description of that magic word does not give them a force, and that's Brian's point. Describing it in reality, there is no describing it in reality, Brian, Neil, as you keep asking, because it's bending conceptual mediums.
Yeah, I know what Brian's saying, but I'm saying, show me. And they
can't.
You're going to point to the solar system?
You can't see pseudo-Riemannian force space. It's a geometry. It's conceptual.
That's why they don't show you, because it's a mathematical, it's a calculation. It's numerical. They can't show it to you.
Right.
If you ask them for a demonstration, they'd say, just drop something, because they're straight away back to begging the question of a 3D force. They'll keep on trying to marry the two. But as we know, as Rumpus was given the opportunity to do, and especially the last time, he ought to marry the two mathematics. He can't.
That's the reason. That's the reason why I push the word relative, because like I saw Jimbo and a few others don't like the word relative because they think that it's Einstein. But ultimately what it's essentially doing is forcing someone to consider the medium. Now, currently, if they ignore the medium because we let them, then they just calculate for a magical force, and we all know what force they're going to calculate for. And if it goes the opposite way, they'll just say it's the buoyant force. But by saying the word relative, it forces them to consider the medium, and that's fundamental to establishing the cause of the acceleration in the real world. We know why things accelerate, and we can demonstrate it.
Perfect. With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Also, below this video, there is a link to get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.